Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my most favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. We're going to review one of my most favorite runs in the 1980s, Avengers. Okay, so depending on how much time we have, I'd like to keep these videos normally about 15 minutes, but it's ultimately we're going to look at the run on the Avengers called Under Siege. It's been reprinted a bunch of times. It begins in Avengers 273 and goes all the way to 277. There's a lot that happens, so I would love to cover the entire thing in one swell video, but you know, I don't want to keep you guys here for hours. So we're probably just going to do Avengers 273. Depending on time, maybe we'll do 274 as well. So don't hold me to it, though. So in the Avengers, this is from 1986. During the 80s, Avengers was not the popular title that it became under Brian Bendis. This is the Marvel 25th anniversary cover, and all the issues that year had these design here. This is by John Romita, not the cover itself, just the design here. So every title for Marvel during that November of 1985, all of it contained all these things, and it of course had the Marvel 25th anniversary in there. There actually were much older than that. However, they chose to go from the time they became Marvel and started with the Fantastic Four and all that. So cool cover. So the issue starts in a bar, and Hercules is lifting all these people here. Here are our credits. Roger Stern is the writer. John Buscema did the breakdowns, and Tom Palmer did the finishes, which is the inks he based. Tom Palmer, rest in peace, and John Buscema, also rest in peace, were are great artists, but Tom Palmer, man oh man, his inking is very recognizable. He is one of the few inkers that you immediately recognize one of his pieces. Tom Palmer was notorious for using zipitones, and you can see here, and you can see it here on the table. And he had to do it by hand back in those days. So the table eventually bursts, and everyone, of course, is having a good time. And they tell the barkeeper, "Hey, go get some more tables." And he's like, "That was solid oak. Do you know how much that cost?" And Hercules, of course, tells him the Avengers would reimburse him. And it was a wager that he had with this individual, which he won. And so he's buying all the drinks, and he asks him if all the Avengers are just like him. So he tells him about Captain America and Captain Marvel, who was Monica Rambeau during this time, and the Black Knight and Namor, just a little bit of each here. The guy asks if that he heard that him and Namor didn't get along, and he tells him, "Oh, he's headstrong, but he's a good ally, and he'll miss him." And the guy says, "You mean he quit?" And he goes, "No, he's taking some personal time. He'll return." So you can kind of suspect a little bit as to what's going on here. So during this time, the Wasp was the leader of the Avengers, and Hercules says she's finishing up the term, and this guy is kind of pushing his button, saying, "What's it like taking orders from a woman? Does she make you sign in and out?" And she laughs. And and he breaks the glass. First of all, you have to remember in context the time frame of this. This was the 80s, a lot of machismo, a lot of stuff. So he Hercules doesn't take it well, hits the guy. He goes out, and there's a truck coming. That guy behind him is saying he'll be killed, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, what have I done?" Because he, of course, lost his temper, and he's like, he can't die because of me, and gets in the way of the truck, which of course dismantles the truck. Now, the dude that was driving inside should have gone bam. So he basically would have killed the other dude. Hopefully he was wearing the seatbelt, but it was the 80s. Not everybody wore a seatbelt. So Hercules does stop this guy from getting killed and helps him up. And so he helps him up and notices that he's not hurt. And they check on the driver, and the guy that was wearing his seatbelt. And the owner says, "Now I got to pay for the glass." He's like, "None of you will bear the cost of my, his temper tantrum." So the dude was actually walking toward this shady looking van. So this guy here is saying he'll forget about me by the time he's done telling his tale. And this is Yellow Jacket, not the Yellow Jacket that you're used to, but this is a woman, not Hank Pym. And again, you see a lot of zipitones. Tom Palmer, you'll be super familiar with him. He did a lot of issues as inker of Avengers. So this guy, of course, was the Wrecker, or is the Wrecker, and he's the leader of another group of villains called the Wrecking Crew. So, and you can see here he's wearing a microphone. So they report here, and this is Moonstone, and they said they also planted a bug in the bar. So, and of course, Baron Zemo is here as well. He's the one who was talking above here. So something is kind of going on here, and like I said, this story is really good. So he congratulates everyone on a job well done. Zemo asks why she was on monitor duties, and she had other tasks to be done, and she says that she was just stretching her legs for a bit, and she's wondering why he's so curious, if she's afraid that she'll learn about the secret plan of his. He doesn't say anything, he just points for her to go away, basically. Before she goes, she says, "I'll go," but she knows that her plan is crucial to whatever she's doing. So, and of course now we get the inner monologue that was very famous during the 80s. And again, look at all the zipatone. It's really cool. When I was young, I didn't know how. I thought they did. Each one of those was just, they were dabbing it. I had no idea how they did all this. So he thinks that Moonstone is the one that presents a direct challenge to his being the leader. But then the Wrecker, he says, if you keep him busy, give him some action, he'll basically toe the line. But he can't strike too soon against the Avengers, or he'll basically go through like his dad. He needs to take care of Captain America as well, and so he'll put up with Moonstone because they have to deal with Captain Marvel, who's the most powerful of the Avengers, he thinks. So speaking of Captain Marvel, so here's the Earth, and she's in the moon, just kind of using her powers, just kind of exercising them. She goes through the moon, and she, of course, goes at the speed of light. So this is all happening very fast. She goes to um, Paris. She's gonna um, go there, orders the menu, and the guy, of course, recognizes her. So Baron Zemo did catch the high energy beam, so he knows that it's Captain Marvel and has to find a way to neutralize her. So Zemo interrupts her and says we have to deal with Captain Marvel right away, but she's, of course, says it's not ready yet. Look at all the Zipatone. Oh, it's very cool. He, more than anybody else, used it so much. I mean, it's everywhere here and here. Just amazing. So, um, what she's going to use this person here. His name is Blackout, and um, he's a paranoid individual, but she says that paranoia makes him easier to control, and she uh, tells him to protect them, and he's like, protect. So he creates these energies called the Dark Force, and it absorbs everything. It's kind of like a black hole, but without the gravity. So everything that's in there is trapped in there. It's like from a pocket dimension, is sort of how they explain. And Zemo tries to use this powerful pistol of his, but it doesn't work. So she says that that's how they're going to get Captain Marvel. They're going to use the blackout to keep her in there. And so, of course, Zemo says now she has me even more because she's got a weapon that only she can control. When suddenly there's this big sound and a tremor, and she thinks they're under attack. He says, nope, it's from the chamber. And of course, Mr. Hyde is fighting Piledriver, who Piledriver is also from the Wrecking Crew. Moonstone shows up and tells him, hey, we're all in this together. And he's like, you dare threaten me? She says she's trying to just tell him to listen to reason. And Mr. Hyde's like, nobody can tell me what to do. And of course, Nemo puts his hand on him. So he says, hey, save your strength for your enemies and go relax for a bit. And Moonstone's impressed how he was able to calm him down. So Zemo tells Moonstone to go back to the laboratory just to finish things up. She wonders how she was able to control it. Piledriver says, did I do good? He had done as he asked, and Zemo says that he did fine. Of course, all this was done so Zemo's leadership wouldn't be questioned. So what it was is Piledriver was meant to set up Mr. Hyde, and get him angry. And Zemo actually had a tranquilizer that used to calm him down, and thus securing that Moonstone won't try to take over. And so that night, the Black Knight and the Wasp, she's wearing this little dress, are going to some kind of high-end club. Of course, the paparazzi are all there, so it's some kind of charity event, which is always kind of funny how celebrities do this. They like, look at us. Instead of donating, they just have to go through this thing to show how much they're giving, as if that somehow made them better. But whatever, I digress. So the paparazzi there are taking pictures of them, and Black Knight's a little uncomfortable. So this reporter says, hey, is it true the Submariner quit? He says no, he's in a leave of absence. And Black Knight says, hey, where'd you hear that from? He says it was an anonymous tip, and then just starts asking more questions. And from behind, this guy taps and says, "Hey, take a chill pill." Of course, this is the Paladin, and if you are have watched my Amazing Spider-Man that covers the Todd McFarlane run, he is part of that assassination plot storyline. So Zemo is watching the news, and of course, he's the one that tipped about the Submariner. He says he knew she'd be taken aback by the news. Um, and Paladin, of course, would kind of create a distraction. So he fixed his headband. Says he made the modifications that he needed. Zemo questions saying it even weighs the same, and he's like, "It'll work." So Zemo puts it on. He asks if this about Captain America, who he's been keeping tabs on, and he kind of tells him he was in Florida, and then Zemo wants everyone in the conference room immediately. So here are all the villains here. Let me see if I can recognize. I think this is Goliath, Moonstone, Titania, the Absorbing Man. Of course, you met Pile Driver, Thunderball, Bulldozer, Tiger Shark, I think. You saw Yellow Jacket, Mr. Hyde, the Wrecker, and here is the Fixer. And I think this is that Blackout guy. So everybody's questioning, why are they here? And Tiger Sharks, of course, says that to let him speak. Tells everybody that they've all been beaten by the Avengers, but alone. But what about together? If they all banded together? So he says the Avengers basically is because they stick together that they're able to beat him despite changing all these team members. And he says basically if the villains unite, they it'll basically get that element that the Avengers seem to have. It'll neutralize it. And together they also outnumber all the Avengers. So he says that after the Avengers, then the Fantastic Four and so forth and so forth, and asked if they will join him. Moonstone says she's grateful, but why should they listen to her? He has no powers, and of course he yells to Blackout to restrain her. And Blackout is listening to him, and he basically says that little headband, that circuitry that he put in there now allows him to control Blackout. He says leadership is his, and he's basically how much he hates Captain America is essentially what he's doing all this. She, of course, says, all right, she won't question his leadership anymore, and then has Blackout release her. So the villains decide to join Zemo, and Moonstone wants to hear more of his plan, and he basically says the total defeat and humiliation of the Avengers. So now we go to Avengers Mansion. So as you can see real quick here before I continue, these comic books were packed. That is one thing that now today comic books just don't read like this anymore. Part of it is because there's these double page spreads, these single, there's so little, you got to come up with a way to mix dialogue and art. And I'm not saying that making them wordy makes them better, but you got to have a story. And in the 60s through the early 90s, there was a lot of stories, but then Image happened and everything changed after Image. That was quite the event where it no longer became about the story. It was all the art, which is also important. They are comic books, but you got to have a balance between the two. So I digress again. So So Jarvis is on monitor duty. Normally it would have been Hercules, but a woman called to go on a moonlit cruise. So Jarvis offered to help, and that was actually a trick from Zemo. It had said here, and the alarm comes in. He says someone's trying to break in, but the gate is omnium steel, and of course the wreckers go through. But what's funny is, okay, so the gate, but the, I mean, you you just jump the the wall. I don't know. So, regardless, here come our villains and the mansion's weapons come up. So the villains disable the weapons. Again, they're working together, so they're working as a team. And high above is where Zemo's at. So, um, Titania and the Absorbing Man wanted to know why they couldn't be in the assault. Zemo says, you have your orders. There's still much for them to do. The Fixer says someone's trying to broadcast an emergency alert, but he's jamming it. And he says, give the troops the location. And Jarvis is trying to tell everyone that the mansion's under attack. And in comes Mr. Hyde. He says, step away, and he'll only break one of his arms. Zemo and the Fixer arrive. So during this time, the government had sort of started to butt in with the Avengers, because trust me, if this was real, the government would do that, because that's what the governments do. They like to put their little paws into everything that they go. So they made the Avengers get rid of like the Quinjets and all that stuff. So, and he says here that the villains have done quite a thorough job disabling everything, and so everything went as planned. And here they make a comment that says Hyde's easy that they stopped him from removing the butler's arms and legs. So of course, the record says the Avengers mansion belongs to the Masters of Evil. And Zemo says this will be the first of many. So we're at 23 minutes, so I will only do the video on one. I do apologize. There's just so much on these older comic books. It's so much easier with newer ones to do multiple issues, because so little happens in each issue. But these were very compact. So like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.